Hi guys! Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about what I read in 2025 and my plans for 2026. So 2025 was the year that I got back into reading. Yay! I was a pretty avid reader when I was a teenager. I used to be really obsessed with books and I dreamed of having my own library. But as time went on, life got in the way and I forgot about this hobby that used to bring me so much joy. If I'm being honest, university was such a demanding time with lots of truly horrendous to get through readings that it just put me off reading completely. My brain was like, I do not want to see a single page of text ever again, But then again, time heals, right? I finished university, I got a job and improves my mental health. And with that, my desire to, run off into fictional worlds returned. Right, so in 2025, I read a total of 43 books. Now, I properly got back into reading in June, I believe. So 43 books in pretty much 6 months is pretty impressive if you ask me. Alright, let's talk about them. Now, the first book that I read in 2025, which is not on my Fable, because it took me like 3 months or something to read it and I did not remember the dates specifically, so I didn't want to put it in there, is 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think by Brianna West. I went through a phase in 2024 when I would read self-help books because, again, my mental health was quite low and I needed something to, help me figure out my way in life, if I can put it that way. However, I didn't really read those books for pleasure. I read them to fix something in my life and in my worldview and whatnot. And yeah, it's not the types of books that I want to read consistently. Once in a while is fine, but if you're reading them over and over and over again, you're gonna get overwhelmed. So yeah, 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think took me, I'm guessing like 3 months to read. I think I said that already. But I do recommend it to anyone who is stuck in life and wants a change of perspective. It has some great journaling prompts to help you figure out what kind of person you want to be, some useful mindset shifts, and ideas of what to think of when your brain is stuck on a loop and you can't seem to get out of it. Okay, so yeah, that was the only self-help book that I read last year, and it was quite good, all things considered, So now let's get into fantasy, which is my primary genre. And I started this sort of reading comeback with one of my favorite series ever, which is The Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas. I just absolutely adore everything about it. The world building, the characters, the story. It's such a just fun ride. And I'm a big fan of Sarah J Maas's writing as well. So yeah, when I thought about getting back into reading, I was racking my brain because I wanted to read something that was familiar, I'd read the series already, like maybe close to 10-ish years ago. I was a teenager, okay? And I remember that it stuck with me quite a lot and that I enjoyed it. So I read Throne of Glass in June. Then in July I read Crown of Midnight, Heir of Fire, The Assassin's Blade, that's the 4th one, and Queen of Shadows, that was July. In August, Empire of Storms, Tower of Dawn, and Kingdom of Ash, and that was the end of the series. I think they're my favorite books ever. Alright, then I read The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It got recommended to me on Reddit. I just saw somebody talking about, sort of cozy fantasy. and I thought that sounded good, so I wanted to give it a go, especially since, you know, Kingdom of Ash and the finale of a series can be quite emotional. So I felt like I needed a little bit of a change of pace, if that makes sense. Yeah, the spell shop was quite good. I enjoyed the idea of the world, and Kaz, you know, the talking plant. I think he was my favorite character in that book. I remember resonating with... oh my god, I forgot her name. I remember resonating with the main character and, you know, the feeling of sort of isolating yourself and not wanting help from anybody, because, again, been there, done that. And I just liked how she came out of her shelf and let people in within the community. And that was sort of a nice thing to see. It made me feel cozy. And it made me feel that there's nothing wrong with letting people in. Then, and I was still in August, I started a reread of A Court of Thorns and Roses, also by Sarah J. Maas. I'd read, I think, books 1 to 3, if I remember correctly, again, when I was a teenager. But the newer ones were new to me. I never got around to reading them. So, it was a reread of A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Court of Mist and Fury, and A Court of Wings and Ruin. And I didn't know, I also read A Court of Frost and Starlight, I remember that. I'd also read that. But then the one that was new to me was A Court of Silver Flames, which I read in September. And out of the whole series, I enjoyed A Court of Silver Flames the most, because again, there was that, you know, mental health arc, and I enjoyed seeing Nesta develop and just change her ways and become a better person, if that makes sense. So yeah, really resonated with that one, and that one stuck with me. Next, I read the Shadow and Bone trilogy, which I had not read when I was a teenager. But yeah, I'd heard a lot about Leigh Bardugo and her books and everything, and I wanted to try it out. Shadow and Bone was not my favorite trilogy, or like series of books or whatever. It just, for some reason, I couldn't really resonate with the characters that much. I don't know if it was because of the writing style or because of the characters themselves, but it just felt a bit flat, and I don't know, I couldn't keep my interest in it. Like, I read it because, you know, I started it, so I should finish it, but I just... it's quite boring at times. I don't know. Never really kept my interest in it. Because of that, I was quite skeptical to go into the Six of Crows duology, which is sort of in the same universe. But again, a quick Reddit search told me that no, you've got to. These books are actually good. And they were. I absolutely loved the Six of Crows and the Crooked Kingdom. The heist and the crew, the, you know, plot twists and everything. I was eating that shit up, you know. It was such a roller coaster, and I enjoyed it immensely. And yeah, it was a great time. The next book I read was An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. I found a, you know, post recommending it on Pinterest, and I thought I would give it a go. It was fine, but it wasn't, you know, life-changing by all means. The plot felt tiny bit predictable, and some of the characters just didn't pull me in. And the quote-unquote teapot scene, which was supposed to be, you know, the selling point of the book, that's what the post made it out to be, just fell a bit flat in my opinion, and you know, it was just a bit underwhelming in general. I probably would not read that one again, just because I wouldn't want to waste my time on that again. Okay, then I've got a bit of a random one, which is A Street Cat Named Bob by James Bowen. I read it because it was my boyfriend's favorite book when he was younger and he wanted me to read it, so I did. It was not what I expected it to be. You know, because it was a book he read when he was a child, I thought it would be children's story. Nope. It was about drugs and addiction and trying to get back on your feet and everything. So once I figured that out, I was a bit like, what did you make me read? But nah, it was good. I enjoyed it and I enjoyed the message that I was trying to spread. The next thing I read was The Demon in the Wood by Leigh Bardugo. It's a short story, again, in English verse, about the origins of one of the characters. And it was fine. I didn't know that it would be this short. And I also didn't feel like it brought much to the universe and to the story, so I felt it was a little bit pointless, but I read it nonetheless. Though to be fair, maybe I'm not remembering, because I don't think I remember what the fuck happened there. It might have been important, it might not have been, I don't know, but hey, I read it. The next one was The Enchanted Greenhouse by Sarah Beth Durst. It was the second part to the Spell Shop story, and I thought that it would follow the same characters, but it did not actually. But it was good nonetheless. I think I enjoyed it a tad bit more than the other one, because I just found the story a bit more compelling of trying to figure out why the greenhouse is failing, and trying to help it rather than setting up a jam shop, which was, it was fine, it was cute, but I like that element of mystery, so that's why it appealed to me more. Okay, next I read, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's called the Shadow Game Trilogy. Could be completely off the ball here. But I read Ace of Shades, King of Fools, and Queen of Vaults by Amanda Foody. I really, really enjoyed the first book. I loved the tension between the main characters and getting into the world and trying to figure out a mystery. That felt great to me. The first one was amazing. Then the other two kind of did not live up to that hype. And by hype, I mean, the impression that the first one gave me. The chemistry was off, and I felt like some of the choices that the characters made did not suit their personalities at all. So I thought they were, weird choices to string the plot along, I guess. But yeah, they were fine, good even, but not exceptional. Next, I read two books by Dana Schwartz. They're called Anatomy and Immortality, and they're part of a love story duology. Don't quote me on that. I quite enjoyed those books, to my surprise, because I never pegged myself for gothic enjoyer. The atmosphere felt dark and eerie and gothic. It was, I think, from like the 1800s or something. I liked the fact that it was historical fiction. It kind of, again, threw me off guard because I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. But it was a fun read regardless of my expectations of it. I think the best part about this duology was the romance, but also the fact that we had a strong female lead and that she didn't give a shit about societal expectations and she just did her own thing. And I applauded her for it. I was like, go girl, you do whatever it is that you want to do, even if it is digging up corpses. So, It was fun, it was a little bit gory, but interesting at the same time. Again, I do not think I would be interested in reading about, human organs, but hey, I learned something. The last book I read in September was The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Now, I had a bit of a mixed feelings about this one because everybody, and I mean everybody, was saying that that book would destroy me, that I would be sobbing, that, I would be this and that. But none of that happened for me. I don't know what it was, if I just got too, over analytical of the story, or it didn't grab my heart the way it did for other people. But yeah, I did not sob. I don't think I even cried once while reading it. But what I did was absolutely hate the men. Well, some of the men, because, Achilles and Patroclus were nice, but all the other dudes in the story. Would I recommend it? Yeah. I think I enjoyed the author's imagination and, her version of the myth. Yeah, for that, it was quite enjoyable. Then in October, if I remember correctly, I joined Fable, which is this app that allows you to, post reviews and manage your library of all the books that you've read and everything. Sort of like Goodreads, but outside of Amazon. So that's why I chose that over Goodreads. And it also has a quite fun social feature, which it allows you to post things, sort of like Instagram, and it also has book clubs, which I found quite interesting. And in October I joined a couple of them and I read some of the books that were in the book clubs. The first book for a book club was Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. It was quite good. I enjoyed it. If I remember correctly, I did not guess the ending, which I usually do, so props to the author. But I felt, even though the big thing I wasn't able to figure out, there were some minor things that were quite predictable, so that made reading a little bit less fun. I liked the concept of the games, and I liked the main character. I thought she was chill. Next book club read was If It Makes You Happy by Julie Olivia. Again, this was a bit out of my comfort zone because I normally don't read strictly romance books. I don't mind if there's a little bit of romance as a subplot, but if it's the main point of the story, I feel like it's just a bit boring for me. However, I did not mind that too much with this book for some reason. I low-key think it was because their love interest was a baker, and my boyfriend also is a baker currently, so that made it a little bit more relatable. It was, cheesy, corny, all of those things, but it was fun at the same time. Another book club read was A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed. This one was okay. I found it a little bit weird. The writing style was a bit difficult to, get used to. I felt like I couldn't really immerse myself in the story because I was constantly trying to figure out what the author meant. Like just the language she used was not the easiest to understand, and that sort of put me off reading it a little bit. Also, I thought it was very predictable. Like, as soon as I saw one of the characters, I was like, oh, you're, this person, without spoiling anything. And so yeah, just completely took the joy of, finally figuring things out at the end of the book, just like right out the window. Then, again, another book club read. October was just full of book club reads, to be honest. It was Anathema by Carrie Lake. And again, the language was a bit funny. Like, I feel like I'm quite particular about the language that the author uses because I'm not a native speaker. And so sometimes if I have to look up like every other word to fully grasp what's going on, it puts me off there. And I do not like that. I want to be as immersed as possible. It was quite long. I don't remember how long, but it was a thick boy. I don't know if it was in this one or the next one, might have been both, I don't know. But the way that the main male character talked to the female character was just so outdated and so not knightly, I would put it. He talked like he was from the medieval times, and I was just like, no way in hell. No way in hell. Because he talked like that only to her, I think. He didn't speak that way to anybody else, and so I was like, where is this coming from? It's just, again, it's the language because I'm particular. I thought the story itself was quite good. I think I enjoyed the mystery and the suspense and everything. However, some of the explicit scenes were a bit much for me. Especially in the second one when, you know, we delved a little bit more into one of the main characters' trauma. It was brutal, man. So yeah, that sort of took the enjoyment out of it. I read the second book in the series, I think it's a series, Eldritch. I read it right after Anathema, which I think it was the book of the month for the next month, but I just read it in October still because I was just like, it's out, you know, I might as well. All in all, I think the story was just a bit much in terms of explicit content. I think that was around the time I started reading Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. However, oh my god, I think that is the first book I DNF'd ever. I don't remember DNFing anything when I was a teenager. That one was really quite a shock, but I just could not get through that. The language in this one was so horrible. I genuinely just did not know what was going on half the time. And the show was amazing. The show was great, which is why I wanted to read the book, you know, because I was like, it's going to be so awesome as well. But no, that was not for me. And I realized, I think, at that point that, you know, sometimes you need to let things go. If it's not right, sayonara, baby. We don't have enough time in this world, so do not bother with things that don't bring you joy. So yeah, once I decided to fully DNF Good Omens, my bad. I'd been reading Good Omens from a little bit before I started If It Makes You Happy. I remember now. And I decided to DNF it by the time I finished Eldritch. That was it. Anyway, once I did that, I decided to get into Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas, who, again, to reiterate, is my favourite author. And oh my god, that was the most fun I've ever had while reading a book. I'm working on a reading vlog for the first one, but it is hands down my favourite book ever, I think. I know I said that Throne of Glass is my favourite series, but no, scrap that. Crescent City is my favourite series. The way that the mystery unfolded was amazing. I never suspected who it was in the first book. The romance was great, the banter, the chemistry, everything, fantastic. Then in the later books, it actually starts to tie into all the other series by Sarah J. Maas, and so it's just, it's such a beautiful work of art, and I could not put these books down. They were this good. So yeah, I read those in November, and then right after that I started The Raven Cycle by Maggie Steve Water, I don't know. Those 4 books took me about a month to finish. It was a decent series. I enjoyed it. I was really intrigued by the mechanics of this world and the magic and everything. I think that was the strongest point of this series. However, I found the ending to be predictable and quite underwhelming as well. It was good, but again, it wasn't fantastic. It wasn't, oh my god, I need to know what happens now. I cannot put the book down, you know? Yeah, and I also, as much as I liked the magic system, I was confused by it a lot of the time. So, you know, it was a hit and miss with this one. And the last book I read in 2025 was Lessons in Faking by Selena May. I enjoyed the hell out of this one. Again, romance books are not really my cup of tea. I think if I read too many of them in a row, I would just get bored of them. But this one was good, and I enjoyed the fake relationship aspect of it, and that they actually did fall in love. And you know, all the cheesy romance stuff, it was good. It was fun. And it was a nice light read to finish 2025. So, with that being said, what are my plans for 2026? I've got a vague goal of books I want to read, and that is 52 books, because I wanted to average out one book per week. I don't want to set myself any crazy goals of, I don't know, 100, 150 or whatever books, because I know that life gets busy and I don't want to put that sort of pressure onto myself. And seeing as in 2025, in just half a year, I read 43 books, I think that's quite manageable. So yeah, I'm not gonna put any sort of pressure on myself, and I'm just gonna take it slow and enjoy the process, because that's what it's all about. In terms of any specific books, I don't have any goals. I think I'm gonna follow my book clubs on Fable, and I'm gonna try and be a little bit more sociable and interactive with the way that I read, so that it hopefully helps me to remember the books that I read. If you've made it this far, please let me know down below what was your favorite book you read in 2025, and if you have them, what are your reading goals for 2026? Have a good day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye!